when people ask me what kind of art do I do, they often say painting or sculpture. I say no. Most of my work are commercially unfriendly artwork because nobody can really purchase it in terms of owning the object. It's more about owning a memory or an experience. So I like to think of myself as a social conceptualist who does interactive installation that are based for the museum population or a site, meaning a physical site or a community that invited me to address particular type of issues. For me, outside of art, let's talk about architecture and biology just because these were the fields that I was in. There's definitely a correct answer when you do biology and math, which involves in architecture and biology. I feel if my calculation is wrong in terms of structure, the building will not stand, it will collapse. So that's a wrong answer. In biology, if you have the wrong chemistry calculated, the person might die from the injection that you gave this person. So that's clearly a wrong answer. But in art, nobody's gonna die, even if you do a type of work that nobody understands. And in fact, some of the works that people do that I found most fascinating are the works that are unintelligible in terms of people cannot understand what it is because it really challenges what art could be and the definition of what art is. So I'm fascinated with that possibility and also the fact that nobody can come and tell me this is wrong, this is clearly wrong. People might tell me this is terrible artwork and that's different than wrong or right. So I'm willing to accept that challenge being an artist, and I thrive from that challenge being an artist. One of the projects I've done is called the Bodhi Project for the Queensland Gallery of Modern Art as a public art project. That particular project, definitely it's for my own personal fulfillment for that moment, but I also needed a lot of other people to help me to make this project work. I was able to propose a project about bringing a sapling from the original Bodhi tree that Buddha was sitting under when he was enlightened from Sri Lanka to Australia. And it took about 4 years to complete this voyage. But when you imagine that original tree has the same DNA as the one that Buddha was sitting under, so that was already 2,500 years. And then once we planted the Bodhi tree at the Gallery of Modern Art, it takes 4,000 years to, the life of a Bodhi tree is 4,000 years. So it's basically 2,500 plus 4, that's almost 6,000, 7,000 years. And without other people's participating in terms of high priests in Sri Lanka to make this possible, the curator at Gallery of Modern Art to again make this a possible project, the community in Australia, the community in Sri Lanka, the Gallery of Modern Art staff, all this would be possible. So all of them need to believe in this particular idea, and each one of them takes responsibility of their part of effort and make it come true. Therefore, the next one can take it on and make it possible for the next stage. When I was in college as CCA, and also later at Yale, one of my most admired artists is Joseph Beuys. And his reading and his writing it's just very inspiring for me. And I see myself as highly influenced by his work, but it's a very different place and time because in the 70s, at least his work is very much social and political essence to it. And there's a lot about defying the rules and regulation set by the government or the society and challenge that. But for me, it's not about confrontation or challenge at all. It's more about questioning into the very nature of life and in terms of humanity. And I think this has to do with being able to study with Suzanne Lacy, Ronnie Horn, and all these amazing artists, that they bring the issue closer to themselves rather than a bigger social issue. But for me, it's about who am I and who are you? What are we doing in terms of daily activity? That definitely has an influence from the Chan Buddhist practice that I was brought up with. And also going to school in the West Coast in the late 80s and early 90s definitely has an influence on me in terms of thinking in a more social way. And I think it was Suzanne Lacy who coined the word new genre public art, which talks about these social issues and make it into a public event. I tend not to do that because I'm a very shy person. I don't like to be on the stage. I don't like to have a microphone for me. And I'm not very good in organizing an event. So what I tend to do is that I always do a one-on-one. And often nobody sees this. So in a way, it's hard to call me a performance artist just because I don't perform. And the only performer and the audience are myself and that one participant who's there. The project that comes closest to a social performance project is probably the Guernica and Sand, because they're obviously performers, myself, the sand walker, plus the audience. It's a project based on Picasso's Guernica, and it's a performative project that I created the sand painting. In the middle of the exhibition, we changed the sand painting to something completely different. This lady has been coming to see the sand painting before it was disturbed for almost every day. She herself participated in the changing and walking onto the sand painting. She came to me afterward and said, before the sand painting disturbance, meaning when it was in a static moment, for her it was very lifeless. It doesn't have any life to it. But after she walked on it and brushed it up, it became something completely different for her. It's almost like the death mask has been lifted. So it became alive to her again. And that was completely different than what I imagined that project was all about. I thought it's about it's something very, very beautiful and powerful, and transformed into something that's very disturbed. Yeah. So it's almost like differences in terms of entropy that one goes to the other. But for her, it's about hope and about beauty, about coming alive. And I thought that was great that I learned something about my own project from a participant that I didn't see. And from that point on, I just see that project completely different, like the way she did. As I explained earlier, that my work is commercially unfriendly because I don't make any objects to sell and acquire people to acquire these pieces. Because all my projects, they're about memories and about ephemeral quality of life in general. So it doesn't make sense to make objects. And objects really, for me, embodies such small amount of what humanity is all about. And I don't want to create something that people will say, oh, here it is. I own a piece of Mingwei, and not seeing the essence of my work. It's not about ownership of that in terms of object. But I love people owning my work through memories and through experience. So whenever people participated in my project, I always say, now you own a Mingwei piece. And they're all often very, very surprised because they thought, it's all about money that they have to buy. But I say, no, it's not about money. It's about fate and chance that you sleep with me and you dine with me, you walk onto the same painting, and hopefully it changes just a little bit of your life when you participate in this, either consciously or subconsciously. So that part of it is very attractive to me, that ownership, it's about owning something that doesn't exist physically.